blowing up, if I had to describe it in one term. I mean, on a deeper level, I think DC. So the way I think about it is DC in the '90s was this bastion of technology. It's a place where AOL was born. It's a place where MCI was born. MicroStrategy's here, Cvent, Wedding Wire, all these companies that have a footing in pretty early on and during the first .com era. And now what we're seeing is kind of like a second coming of DC. And all these startups, just like Social Tables and all these other really cool startups that are standing on the backs of these giants that established a foundation early on.
I think it's growing. It's still small compared to other big hubs like New York and San Francisco. But I was personally very surprised how much actually is going on here. Coming from Berlin, I did not think there's much to do here in the startup scene. But there has been a lot of development recently with big informational events. There are a couple of startups, big startups here as well. Living Social is here. So the whole scene is fostering now more and more.
As far as support systems, there are physical locations and there's kind of the education piece. So I'll talk about the physical locations. The accelerator here in the Fort has been here since the beginning of 2012, so it's still fairly new, but it's been a beacon for events and people throughout the city. There's also some co-working spaces. Some have kind of come and gone, but there's some new ones that seem to have enough demand that they're going to be doing very well. The economic development offices, I think, do a very good job. We started at the Rockville Economic Development, which is in Maryland. Arlington Economic Development's done a fantastic job. They're really one of the best hosts of events. They got great programming. They've done an incredible job of getting the universities involved. So I would say universities as well. Georgetown University, George Washington University, University of Maryland, George Mason. They've been offering programs, workshops. Their on-campus entrepreneur programs are really growing. I think Jeff Reed's doing a great job at Georgetown University, Jim Chung at George Washington University, Dean Chang at University of Maryland. These guys are doing a really good job bringing, connecting the community and offering events and services. I'd say also just the specialized events in the workshops, Startup Weekend, Lean Startup Machine, Foster Lee, online communities like Co-Founders Lab have all kind of contributed to really boiling the community up to connect with one another and get startups on the map.
I think probably the misconceptions they have are probably realistic. I think DC and I think DC, some of DC's people can be a little stuffy and a little squarish until they come out of their shell. So it's a little stuffy. I think DC can be a little uptight. A lot of suits, right? K Street, where the lobbyists go. Capitol Hill, where government and politicians go. So it can be a little suited up. So I think that causes a stuffiness. I think also the government lifestyle of kind of like 9 to 5 is perhaps works against startups sometimes. So I think that's part of the mentality and cultural shift that has to take place. So I didn't answer. So I'm sorry I didn't answer. The misconceptions are probably realities.
Yeah, yeah. No,
or stereotypes.
I believe that the DC has the unique potential that there are a lot of people in the government jobs, a lot of very talented people in the government jobs, or also working for government contractors, right? Working for the government, and for all the startups, finding good talent is like the critical point. So what I would love to see is that more and more people come away from that industry, that are based in DC already, come away from that industry and being attracted to the startup scene in DC. So being local, but just changing their jobs from a government-focused job into a startup job. And I think that has huge potential then for the startup industry based on so much great talent already being here.
The investor community, I think that like the Fort is one of the big ones here. You know, they do a once a year big, it's a business pitch competition that invites people to come out and pitch their idea, and then through that get potentially seed investment and an invitation to work out of the incubator, where we are right now. And there's other, there's kind of a network of investors that have kind of become known in the area. So if you just talk to a few startup people, you can get to know just there's definitely names out there that are looking to invest.
The DC area has the most capital in the nation. I was surprised by that because you don't see it and hear it about on the big websites. But it's very much old capital that's been sitting around from the old AOL guys, all like Maryland, Virginia, that is out there, and that needs to be invested. It's probably a different type of investment because these people are not professional VCs that are high risk and go into seed startups which don't have a clue about their business model. So that's more about a little more conservative investments. That's why maybe it's also B2B investments are a lot bigger here. So if you've got an enterprise product, maybe have a prototype already, maybe have some revenues, I think it's very easy to raise money here.
The way I look at startups in DC and perhaps in other cities if I was living there is I look at different startups as being classes, right? So the class of 2012, the class of 2013, the class of 2014, and I think a bunch of us who are sort of in the same class, well, probably the class of 2016. That means we're either something awesome is going to happen in 2016. I don't know what that is, but we're going to be somewhere together. And I think the class of 2016 is now seeing kind of like the class of 2017 and 2018 kind of start bubbling up. I think what I have seen though is a much more methodical approach to startups. So the lean approach, customer development, speaking to folks, figuring things out thinking about things before you start building them. So I think that's one way the startup scene has changed.
Well, we've got a lot of momentum build up. I don't see us turning back. I think Startup America has been really influential in this city since this is their hometown. So Startup DC and the good work that Donna Harris and Evan Burnfield and Derek Holt and all the folks involved with Startup DC and Startup Maryland, who are helping get these events and the awareness up, including Startup Virginia. I want to give a special thanks out to Julie Kirk and her team at Startup Maryland, who have helped this region really kind of come together. And I'm expecting great things. I know what Georgetown University is doing. I see what American University is really investing in entrepreneurship programs. George Washington's been doing it for a long time. They're continuing to grow their programs. University of Maryland. So at the university level, at the economic development level, they're serious. We meet with them on a regular basis at Arlington Economic Development, at Montgomery County Economic Development, and I hear of new co-working spaces, some that are going to be announced in the next few months that are about to crop up, and that's going to do wonders for the city. And I know that the mayor of DC he comes to our events. We had a big business plan competition called Distilled Intelligence just a few weeks ago, and the mayor Vincent Gray was there and promoting it, and they're changing laws and making it more attractive financial from a tax policy standpoint. So I think this is a big movement that we're expecting great things, and there's a lot of data that says that along with maybe Los Angeles as far as growth, Chicago, DC, I mean New York has been around and they're going to continue to do well. Boston's been around for a long time, they'll continue to do well. But as far as new growth cities, I would say DC is up there with Chicago and Los Angeles.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for watching the LEEAP project. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Now remember, if you would like to see any more information or extra bonus footage that we shot during the trip, hop onto our website. And I'll catch you next week when we head to New York City to see what this startup scene looks like.